Hello guys, welcome back. My name is Nathan and today I've been waiting a while to finally do this. We're going to be ranking my favorite NHL teams 1 through 32 2020 edition. Now again, a lot of you guys are requesting me to finally update my team rankings. I did this really early in 2019 and haven't updated it since. We're going to be including the Seattle Kraken as well in today's video, but we're going to be going from 32 all the way down to my favorite team in the NHL. So, who do I see as my favorite teams right now in the National Hockey League, and where does your favorite team rank in my team rankings? Watch till the end for all the rankings, all the picks, and of course, hit that big red subscribe button for more daily hockey content just like this one. Now, of course, these rankings aren't rocket science. You have your favorite teams, and if your favorite team is low on my list, I'm just going to say this right now. I don't hate any NHL team. Even my last place team, and the fans of this last place team know, I've actually warmed up to them a little bit more over these past few years. So it's just my favorite teams, and then the rest are just kind of jumbled together, I would say. But I did this ranking last time around early 2019, so a lot has changed. There's a couple of teams specifically that have gone way up, and a couple of teams that have gone way down that I'm thinking about right now. So a lot is different, and a lot has changed in this top 32 now. So we're gonna get straight into it. I'm not gonna waste any more time, and we're gonna get into my least favorite team in the NHL, and this will surprise absolutely nobody unless you're super new to the channel, which if you are, of course, hit that subscribe button if you're new. But coming in at number 32, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, they were ranked 31 last year, but I didn't have the Seattle Kraken in my rankings. They come in at number 32, and I think for the Chicago Blackhawks, I mean, I'll say this right now. As I said before, I don't hate any NHL team, especially compared to when I started being a hockey fan. If you look back like 5 years ago, I despise Chicago. I absolutely hated them, and I was such a big fan of Tampa, and obviously my favorite team around that time, and as Chicago beat them and continued to be good, I just didn't really fall in favor of them. I do like them a little bit more now, and I do like a lot of those players, like DeBrincat, Kirby Dach's fantastic, and I do think they have a pretty good rebuild future going for them, but as it stands, they come at last place, which for Blackhawks fans that have been a part of the channel, you guys are absolute goats, but you won't exactly be too surprised. Then going on to my 31st spot, I have the St. Louis Blues. Now, they would go down one spot technically. They were at 29 last year. They come at 31 here, of course, because of the Seattle Kraken. But the St. Louis Blues, I mean, this also isn't too surprising. Blues fans, you guys are freaking awesome. I just don't really like your team too much. And as my favorite team would suggest, yeah, it kind of happens to be that way. As a Dallas Stars fan, I think there are some redeeming qualities with the Blues. I really like their fresh look. I like those jerseys. That logo is fantastic, I think. But the team itself, with how much rivalry has been there, with how much hatred there's been there, I don't think I would have them anywhere else, to be honest. Then going on to my 30 spot, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. And again, this probably wouldn't be too surprising. We do have a lot of Penguins fans in the channel, and you guys are freaking amazing as well. But, I mean, your team just wins too much. That's really how I look at it. I mean, some people call me a bandwagon, but I'm not a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. To me, Pittsburgh, I don't know where to place them and how to really think about them, because it's been a little bit since they've won their last Stanley Cup in 2017, of course. But that's still a team that is always annoyingly in the mix, somehow finds a way. They're a freaking cockroach of the NHL, always being in the playoff bubble, always being around that situation. And I think as Pittsburgh starts to decline a little bit, as their prospect pool gets a lot more better, to be frank, I think that's a team that will likely rise up these rankings. I mean, I don't hate a lot of those players. I love Crosby. I love guys like Jake Gensel. They're fantastic, but just the team itself and the situation they're in, I couldn't have them any higher. Then going on to my number 29 spot, this is easily the biggest faller of any of these teams that will fall on this list. The biggest faller from last year's rankings. Coming at number 29, I have the Arizona Coyotes. In my last rankings, I had them as my 10th favorite NHL team. And I think Arizona, a lot of this has to do with the Mitchell Miller situation and them, finally releasing him, but it took a while. And for me, Arizona was a team that already was kind of falling for them before all those incidents and before the John Chayka situation and all this different drama and all this different stuff. And for Sens fans, you guys know how far they dropped in my rankings because of stuff like that. For me, Arizona comes at this spot. The team itself, I like some of those players. Darcy Kemper's an absolute beauty, and Phil Kessel. But as it stands right now, I don't really see them having too much of a great future, and I just don't see how that franchise really continues to be in a playoff position at this point. Then going on to my number 28 spot, they're in the same spot as they were last year, this being the Boston Bruins. Now, they were 28 last year, 28 here today, and for the Bruins, I mean, they're a good example of, yeah, they're low on the list, but I don't really hate them too much. I don't really dislike them either. They're just kind of average for me, which, yeah, 28, that's not exactly average, but you get what I mean. For me, the Bruins, I don't find myself cheering for them, but David Pastrnak's one of my favorite players in the league. If Pastrnak wasn't on that team, they're probably a little bit lower, but I don't really find myself hating them either. I don't cheer for them, but I don't absolutely despise them, which, I mean, I guess that's a compliment. We'll see. Depends on how you look at it. Then going on to my number 20 spot, or 27 spot, this team dropped 7 spots from my 2019 ranking, that being the Nashville Predators. Now, I will say this. Back in 2017, I was definitely on that bandwagon. I'm not going to lie, but ever since then, it's been a lot harder to enjoy their style of game. It's been a lot harder to enjoy that roster. They're just a team that's just so exhaustingly should be better, but they just can never be that. And it sucks because back in 2017, they were such a lovable team with so many great stories and so many fantastic players. And now you look at that team and it's like, why? What is happening? What are they trying to accomplish? And I don't really know exactly. That's a team that has a little more older players now since that 2017 run. I love me some Victor Arvidsson. He's fantastic. Roman Josi is awesome too. Ryan Ellis. But I don't know. I just don't really like Preds too much. Especially, I did say this before, jerseys do get into consideration. And when you're the Nashville Predators with the worst home and away kits in the league, doesn't exactly do you too many favors. Then going on to my number 26 spot, this one also is one of the bigger fallers, but I'm not really sure if it was anything with them. That's the Columbus Blue Jackets. They were number 15 in my last year ranking, coming in at number 2016 or 26 this time around. And again, I don't think Columbus really did anything wrong. It's just a lot of teams have passed them by. And I love me some Seth Jones, Texas-born stud, of course, but I just don't really see there being too much to love on Columbus compared to other teams, especially player-wise. The jerseys are fine. The team makeup is fine. John Tortorella is an absolute crazy man. But I just see that team as stylistically a little bit more on the boring side. I'm sorry, but it kind of is that way. And I like my high-flying offensive teams. And for me, Columbus, I mean, I have a lot of respect for how they play, but I don't exactly see myself tuning into too many games, especially last year when I had the chance. So Columbus, I think is fine, but compared to other teams, I just don't see myself cheering for as much. Then going on to my number 25 spot, this one again is kind of in the same situation. I have the New York Islanders. Now, they were number 16 in last year's rankings. They come at number 25. And I think it's just kind of a symptom of them now being a good and established team. I have a lot of respect, though, for the Islanders and the way they play. I mean, they're Columbus, but just more in a refined way. And it's really just a whole team system. I love Barry Trotz. Matthew Barzal is an absolute stud. I love him to bits. But I think the Islanders are just kind of like, yeah, you're good now. And that's just kind of how it is. I liked them a lot more when they were bad and had John Tavares and were kind of this like crazy team when they had Doug Weight as their coach and they were scoring goals left and right. That was a little bit more entertaining for me. But even though the Islanders are up there for me, I still have a lot of respect for how they play. And obviously, it's been working the past couple of years. Then going on to my number 24 spot, this team was at the same spot last year, finds themselves at number 24 this time around too, that being the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Anaheim, I think, is trending towards the right direction a lot, and I really like that rebuild, how it's going. Trevor Zegras is going to be absolutely amazing for them. But I think it's still a little bit of a tip of the iceberg on the rebuild for Anaheim. I think we will probably see a couple of years more of, not failure, but being more on the bottom of the barrel. I think Anaheim is a team, though, that's trending in the right direction in terms of my favorite teams. They haven't moved a bit here because other teams have moved up quite a bit, but I do like where they're going with. And when those prospects finally hit the stage full-time, I think that's a team that'll be a lot more fast, a lot more high-flying, and will result in being a lot higher in this list, too. Then going on to my number 23 spot, this is another one that's a pretty big faller, 9 spots down from last year. I have the Colorado Avalanche. Now, they come in at number 23, and for Colorado, I mean, as a Dallas Stars fan, you could probably guess why they're here. I like some of the Colorado's players. Kel McCarr is fantastic. Nathan MacKinnon is just absolutely dirty. But Colorado is in a position where it's just like, are you going to get any higher for me? Like, they weren't the team that made the wild card spot after being the worst team in the league. When they were at that spot, they were as high as they've ever been. But now that they're good and are suspected to be good, supposed to be good, it's kind of just like I'm expecting it now. And of course, they are good. They're going to win a Stanley Cup. They could win multiple. And as a Dallas Stars fan, I'm a little bit jealous. Don't tell anyone, though. Don't tell anyone, especially not as fans. They cannot know that. They better not. Don't show that. Anyways, going on to the 22 spot, this team has risen up one spot from last year. I have the Ottawa Senators, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. When Eugene Melnyk is there, it ain't happening for me. It just ain't happening. But I do like the direction Ottawa's trending. Pierre Dorion, I think, has done a pretty great job with this rebuild in terms of scouting, in terms of stockpiling prospects and picks, and I think that team should be good eventually. But when Melnyk is there, when he's controlled that team, I still have my doubts. And I don't know, him as the owner, I just can't. Hashtag Melnyk out. It needs to happen. That's all I'm saying right now. And by the way, I just realized I left the speech bubble. Blank. Let me just quickly. There we go. There we go. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. That is amazing. But yes, Melnyk out, that's all I need. Once that happens, I think the Sens will be quite a bit higher. Then going on to my number 21 spot, I have the Buffalo Sabres. They were 19 last year, and I don't think it's really anything because of them. It's just like, for Buffalo, like, when are you going to make the playoffs, bud? Like, is it going to happen? Like, am I just getting my hopes up? Should I just give up now? That's probably the correct answer, to be honest. But I think Buffalo is just a team. They're like the Canes from a couple of years ago, where it's like, please, just do something. And then they did the thing. They made the playoffs, and that was amazing. That was so exciting, and it was so fun. I think the Buffalo Sabres could have the same potential. I don't think they're nowhere near as depth as they were, or as the Canes were a couple of years ago, but I think the Sabres should be trending in the right direction. Hopefully, this new management group is able to get it done. Then going on to my number 20 spot, up 7 spots from last year, I have the LA Kings. They were 27 last year, they're now number 20. And for the LA Kings, I mean, Quinton Byfield helps a lot, but I think that's a team that, especially the prospects they have, I mean, they're going to be so fun. They're going to be so amazing in just a couple of years when Byfield, Turcotte, Vegamo, Kaliev, Gabriel Velarde, who's already on the scene, already burst on the scene there. You have Bjornfoot, you have Helge Grans. So many fantastic young prospects and players, and I think you're going to see that eventually. It hasn't hit yet, but I do suspect LA, honestly, by the time they're that young, upcoming team, they're probably going to be in the top 15, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happens very quickly. Then going on to my number 19 spot, I have the Winnipeg Jets. They're down a couple of spots from last year, 17 in 2019, but not a big difference. I mean, I love Connor Hellebuck. Nikolai Ehlers is an absolute beauty, and I will say, when they last year said that they could be trading Nikolai Ehlers, I was almost ready to be done with that team, but they kept him, which is I appreciate that a lot. And Sami Niku has one of the best flows in the entire game, so you gotta love that too. Then going on to number 18, I had the Philadelphia Flyers. They've raised a few spots from last year, and this year I really found myself enjoying the Philadelphia Flyers until the playoffs. That regular season, I really liked enjoying Philly, and then the playoffs, they're just like, hey, let's be the New York Islanders, but way worse. And guess what happened? Surprise, surprise, you lost versus the Islanders. And I don't know, I feel like Philadelphia was a lot more, or a lot less restrained during the regular season. They were a lot more flow. They were just feeling the flow during the regular season. I felt like that kind of produced into a lot more fun games and even wins during the regular season. So I'm hoping they get back to that level. We'll see what happens, but I think Philly is definitely trending in the right direction too. Then going on to my number 17 spot, I have the Florida Panthers. Now they've dropped 6 spots from last year, coming in at number 11. And again, I don't really see that as bad. Nothing that really Florida did. It was just, I kind of enjoyed watching them a little bit less because they were more expected to be good with Sergei Bobrovsky. That didn't end up happening. And now with Dadonov gone to the Senators, I don't know. He was one of my favorite players in the Panthers. He's an absolute beauty. Losing him kind of hurts my heart a little bit. So Florida finds themselves at number 17. Then going on to the Minnesota Wild, I have them at number 16 here. They jump up 10 spots from last year. They were 26 last year, 16 now. And I find myself at the moment, yeah, I'm looking at my teams. I'm finding myself at the moment, besides the Stars, they're my favorite team in the Central Division. And I think that's going to be a continuing trend over these next couple of seasons. Minnesota, in my opinion, has the most underrated prospect pool in the league. You already have Kirill Kaprizov, who is one of my favorite prospects ever. You add Marco Rossi, who's going to be an absolute stud. Marat Kuzedinov, who I loved throughout this season in Russia. That's a team that's going to be really solid very soon. And I feel like they have the real potential to have some superstars on that team, finally get themselves out of the mediocrity, and finally be that high-flying team that they definitely could be. We'll see what happens, but I think Minnesota definitely has potential. Then going on to my number 15 spot, another big riser, jumping up 10 spots from last year, I have the Detroit Red Wings. Now, Detroit, one of the main things was, as you could probably notice, I don't really love teams too much when they're constantly winning, but it's been a long time now since Detroit has been at that level, and now they're really progressing the rebuild. When they hired Steve Yzerman, I was absolutely in love with it. Stevie was one of the main reasons why I became a Tampa fan in the first place, and now he's on Detroit. I think he's done a fantastic job so far. They've added a lot of solid players in free agency. Thomas Greiss is an absolute beauty, and they already have a lot of great players on that team. I love Phillips Zanina, Maurice Sider, Lucas Raymond, basically all their top picks. I love to death. And that's a team that I think is going to be very solid very soon. And when when all the young players are coming at one time, it's going to be an amazing team to watch. So much fun. Then going on to my number 14 spot. This will surprise a certain fan base at this spot for sure, because I can't tell you how many times I've been accused of hating this team, but at number 14, I have the New Jersey Devils. They were 21 last year, 14 here today, and honestly, I mean, you guys know the other team I like that might not be the best friends with the New Jersey Devils, but I like watching New Jersey. I mean, they weren't good this year, but I kind of found myself liking them more than I did last year. I really love Jesper Braun, his second half of the season. Kyle Palmieri's a beauty. Nico Hischier's amazing for me. Jack Hughes is awesome. Mackenzie Blackwood is becoming one of my favorite players in the league as well. That's a team that I really do enjoy, and their prospect pool is super depth-worthy. It has a lot of great options. I think New Jersey, as some other teams have alluded to, is trending in the right direction, but already at that point, I am really starting to enjoy their games. They're not a great defensive team. They're more on the offensive side. Hasn't worked so far, but I do like where they're going. Then going on to my number 13 spot, I had the Calgary Flames. They came in at number 9 last year, and for Calgary, I mean, they're always going to be in my top 15. My dad's a Flames fan, and I kind of grew up around that team a little bit too. They were never my favorite, but I always had an admiration for them, and I still do. It's just for Calgary in their current situation, I'm not in love with that team. I love Matthew Tkachuk. Johnny Gaudreau's an absolute stud, but I don't know. A lot of that roster I'm just kind of meh with in terms of actually liking those players. So I think they have some great pieces. They should be solid next year. And going on to my number 12 spot, another quick riser here, I have the Vancouver Canucks. They were 18 last year, coming in at number 12. I mean, this year, it really didn't need to go as good as it did, but I really enjoyed watching Vancouver this year, man. They were such a fun, flying team. Elias Pettersson is already one of the best centers in the league. Quinn Hughes, in just his rookie season, is already one of the better D-man in the league, too. That team is already so exciting. They have been so exciting. I think that team's going to be awesome. And another thing I do mention is the look of the team. One of the things that was always bothering me with Vancouver was that word mark on the logo. They got rid of that. Their jerseys are absolutely smooth now, and I think that's a team that'll look good while playing good in these next few years too. Then going on to my number 11 spot, I have the Washington Capitals. They come in at number 6 last year, and they've dropped 5 spots, but it's not really them. It's more so other teams rising in their place. To me, Washington, again, they are the contending team. They got over the hump. Washington's been declining since they won the Cup in 2018, which is to be expected, but I still love so many players on that team. Alex Ovechkin, of course, Jacob Vrana are just amazing. Ilya Samsonov is looking really, really good. So I don't think I'm going to have Washington outside the top 15 anytime soon, but even though they are declining, I still like watching them a lot. Then going on to my number 10 spot. This one, I don't really say I love them too much, but I've always liked them quite a bit. That being the Edmonton Oilers. Now, they were 13 last year. They come at 10 this time around, and I really did enjoy watching Edmonton this year. They were such a fun team to watch throughout most of the year. especially even when Connor McDavid got injured and Leon Draisaitl really stole the show. You had Kailer Yamamoto really jumping out this year, which was fantastic to see. And I think that's a solid prospect pool as well. Ever since I started getting in the league with Connor McDavid as well, I've always liked Edmonton, but they've been around that number 10 spot for a while, so deservedly so to be in the top 10. Then going on to my number 9 spot, this team drops down 2 spots from last year, but again, not really their fault too much, that being the Carolina Hurricanes. I'll just say this right now, the Canes are fun, and they embrace that throughout the whole franchise. This year, it was like more like, yeah, you're good now, but I still enjoy watching Carolina a ton. Sebastian Aho is a beauty. Andrei Svechnikov is becoming one of my favorite wingers in the league. Dougie Hamilton is already one of my favorite defensemen in the league. Teuvo Teravainen is amazing. You know, Nino Ryder is so fun as well. That team is just good, and they just are so much fun to watch. Definitely deserving to be in this top 10 at this point. Then going on to my number 8 spot, one of the bigger risers in the top 15 at least. Coming in at number 8, I had the Montreal Canadiens. They were 12th last year, coming in at number 8 this time around. And ever since, I would say, 2017, the Canadiens have been trending in the right direction in terms of my favorite teams. I remember last year, they were just so extremely fun to watch. And I just always would find myself tuning into those games because they were such a fun team even though they didn't make the playoffs. This time around, they technically did, but that whole playoffs, they were just a fun team to keep track of, with the young players really coming up well. Nick Suzuki looking fantastic. I think that's a team that'll get younger and younger in these next couple of years and will continue to be in the playoff fun. Then going on to my number 7 spot, this team has also dropped a couple of spots, but still healthily in my top 10, that being the San Jose Sharks. Now, the San Jose Sharks obviously did not have the greatest year, didn't really pan out too much, and even though I didn't like them as much as I used to, that's still a team that is one of my favorites in the league. Just like the Canes, they embrace fun, and I'll say this, it doesn't really result in too many winning games, but this year, I mean, they tried their best with offense, and just seeing that goalie tandem next year in Dubnyk and Martin Jones, it's definitely going to be interesting. That we'll see what happens, but I think San Jose is just with their goal horn, they're just everything. Their logo's fantastic, their jerseys are awesome. That's a team that I always love cheering for. Then going on to my number 6 spot, the newly acquired name of the Seattle Kraken. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, how could you have the Kraken here and so high? Well, I'll tell you, if you watched, I made a Seattle team name prediction video or something like a year ago when it was rumored what they could go with, like the Sockeye were the number 1 team. And I remember saying, if the Seattle Kraken, or if the Seattle team names themselves the Kraken, they will be in my top 5 favorite teams. They're number 6 here, so that I kind of lied a little bit, but the Seattle Kraken, I mean, with just the whole look they've had, I knew instantly I was going to like that team, the Seattle Kraken name. Those jerseys are insanely good. And honestly, at this point, I don't even care what players they get. I'm going to be cheering for that team in year 1. Hopefully, they'll make the playoffs just like the Vegas Golden Knights did. Then going on to my number 5 spot, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were number 4 last year, coming in at number 5 this time around. And I've always liked the Leafs. I mean, that was a team that I remember in that 2015-2016 season. I was just like, wow, this team is horrible, but I really think they could get some good players. And then Austin Matthews got drafted, and once Matthews got drafted, I'm like, okay, I really like this team. And that was when I was really starting to get into hockey, that 2015 and then 2016 season, and I remember keeping up with Austin Matthews, and like, holy crap, this American kid is looking pretty good. And as an American, I obviously love to see that, and I always wanted to see Austin Matthews go to a team that could be successful, and when he went to Toronto, I was kind of like, okay, we'll see how this works out. So far, it's worked okay. They haven't gone far in the playoffs, but I do still like Toronto. Hopefully, Austin Matthews wins that Stanley Cup. Then going on to my number 4 spot, I have the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas at number 3 last time around, and now at number 4. This will surprise some people because I have said in the past that my top 3 will never move. But there's been an interesting team coming inside the top 3 that's kind of shaking that up a little bit. Still at the same time, I would say my top tier is this top 4. I would say in terms of tiers, this top 4 is definitely the highest. I would say around 5 to 10 would be the second tier, and then it would just be like 11 to like 20 and then 21 to 32. But this top 4 is really the teams that I actively cheer for. And I'm just looking at this now. My top 4 has one team in every division, so there you go. At number 4, I have the Vegas Golden Knights, of course, and Vegas was a team that some people say a bandwagon. I liked Vegas before they even had a team name. I'm like, holy crap, a team in Vegas, that sounds way too fun, way too amazing. And when they were winning, when they first went in the league, and started playing those games, I was a little bit pissed because they beat Dallas in their first game ever. But they were a team that was so fun to watch, such a fantastic story, and I'm like, I already like this team, I'll just like them more. They became number 3, but at number 4, they still find themselves pretty high. Then going on to my number 3 spot, this team has reached up 5 different spots to get to the 3rd spot. I have the New York Rangers. Now I got my picture of Timmy Panarin, he's the absolute boy. One of the main reasons I like the Rangers in the first place is Capo Caco, one of my favorite players in the entire National Hockey League, but the more I watch New York, I just love. And the thing is, I already liked New York when they announced their rebuild. Love me some Henrik Lundqvist, one of my favorite goaltenders of all time. That was a team that, when they announced the rebuild, I'm like, if they can pull this off right, I would really love to see a really young team in New York. And they pulled that off with amazing success. So many fantastic players there I love cheering for, and the future is definitely bright in New York. Then going on to my number 2 spots, again, this top 2 will surprise nobody, but again, I did have Vegas at number 4, so maybe there is some surprise. Probably not. Going to my number 2 spot, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. I got my iconic Tampa Bay Lightning flag thing, whatever. I don't even know what it is at this point. I've had it on the door for so long. Yeah, Tampa's my number 2. When I first got into hockey, around 6 or 7 years ago, Tampa was a team that I always enjoyed watching when I could. They were always on NBC as well, and especially in that 2015 run where they went to the Stanley Cup Final, I just found myself really enjoying their games, and funnily enough, really enjoying Ben Bishop. We'll see how that's worked out, and I don't know, I just like Tampa ever since then. They've been my number 2 ever since then, and I don't see myself dropping them anytime soon. But going to the team that'll always be number 1 and will always be at that spot of my favorite team in the NHL, I have the Dallas Stars. And if you know me, this will be no surprise, but the Dallas Stars have been my favorite team forever and will always be my favorite team. Obviously, this year it didn't go their way in the Stanley Cup Final, but incredibly proud for what they've been able to accomplish. I mean, I live here in Dallas, so obviously I'd root for the hometown team, but I remember back in 2015 when they made the playoffs versus the Ducks, and then the following year in 2016 where they were second in the NHL, and just offensively were so smooth, so fun to watch. I grew into hockey with that Dallas Stars team back then, and even though they're more on the defensive side of things now, that's still a team that I'll always love forever and will credit to as to why I'm here and why I love hockey in the first place. And you can thank the Dallas Stars for you watching this video right now. That is really weird to think about. But that'll be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Now, once again, this is just my personal opinion. Let me know down in the comments down below your rankings. What's your favorite team? What's your least favorite team in the league? Make sure, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Make sure you share this video with your friends. Get the favorite teams out there, and click on this card right here to watch all of my hockey rankings videos right in one playlist. My name is Nathan. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video or stream. Goodbye.